So my name's Paul Mason and I'm an economist and journalist working at Channel 4, and my book is called Postcapitalism. And postcapitalism simply is what happens when you get technological abundance, which is what I think is happening. I think it's happening quite rapidly, and I think the whole of the modern developed economy is reacting to try to respond to the challenge that technological abundance brings. And the problem is the reaction, the adaptation, is not very successful. Information technology has three big impacts. It's corroding the price mechanism, it is delinking work from wages, and it's destroying hierarchical organisations and replacing them with networked ones. And each of these three things does challenge some of the fundamentals of what we have come to describe as capitalism. With the price mechanism, look, if you can control C, control V, copy paste something with minimal energy and minimal work, then under free market conditions, the price of that thing is going to end up close to zero. That's what we call the zero marginal cost effect. And we all know it from music, from movies, from pirated goods, from PDFs of books, all of this stuff. But the real impact of it is, of course, in the physical world. So the price of processing power, the price of bandwidth, the price of computer storage, the price of DNA processing, each of these price curves is exponentially off a cliff. And the reason for that is that the information layer of reality is suffering from the same zero marginal cost effect as pure information does. And so it challenges the price mechanism. How do you price something that can be reproduced for free? You know what the production price of it is. The production price of a movie is several $1 million. The production price of a synthesized music track can be very, very low. But that's not the problem. It's the reproduction price that falls to zero, and that messes up the traditional price mechanism.
But what about physical goods? Because that's we all understand that very well in terms of non-digital goods. What about like a chair, a desk, etc.?
Well, look, if you think about engineering, if you think about physical goods, if you think about what's happened to engineering, old-style engineering, where the design is on one side, and that's an analog process. So in the old days, aircraft parts were drawn on silk, so they could be cut out at full size. And then later you throw it over the wall, as we say, to the engineering department, and they make it. What happens in the first few things that they make is an incredible number of mistakes. That's normal. That's the normal engineering process. Virtual manufacturing works like this. You start with a virtual design, a 3D design, in which it's not just a design. The screw exists, the strut exists, the carbon fibre wing plate exists, and you can fly it on its own without an aeroplane, just the wing, and you can land it and see what happens to every bit of that design. When you do that, basically the manufacturing process becomes a physical version of copy and paste, because you can anticipate most of the problems there in the design process. We know that it's massively eradicated defects, and also it allows us to predict failure much better. So engines are now monitored in real time on aeroplanes, and because we know that, say, there are 1,000 such engines in the world, we know that if one of them fails after 66 days, it's highly likely that all the rest will. So we can bring them in on day 65 and maintain them. So the real physical world is not immune from the information effect, and in any case, information is physical. There can't be information without representation, and the representation needs bits and bytes and energy and storage.
Yes.
I didn't invent the term networked individual. It was the sociologist Barry Wellman and the sociologist Manuel Castells who developed the idea. And at first it was applied simply to people who worked in a modern economy. I think now what it describes is somebody who has in fact externalized parts of their ego into a device. We exist through networks. We spend a lot of our time discussing with our friends on networks. The network is always on for us, and I think this is changing both the way we behave, the way we work, the way we consume, and the way we conceive of ourselves as human beings. science writer Margaret Wertheim describes the result as the leaky self, the self constantly shared. Now that's a challenge to the self as in the 19th and 20th centuries liberalism, when we understand human rights, for example, the human being as a sealed container of a consciousness with rights. Now we share things quite easily. We also construct for ourselves multiple personalities. So because online we are literally, in a World of Warcraft we're a dwarf, at work we're something else, in our leisure time, on our dating application, or more than one dating application, maybe for some people for more than one sexuality on the same device. We've got lots of different multiple personalities. And so, I mean, I've been thinking about the movie Brief Encounter has recently been reissued and a new print. And I think they'll be very interested to see the networked individuals watch Brief Encounter and think, why are they doing that? Why doesn't she simply text him? Why is it such a big thing that they've both got double lives? Because a lot of young people who've only known digital technology have used it to construct a reality where the double or triple life is normal. See, I think we could rapidly use technology to change human society. It's a dream, it's an old dream, it's gone wrong many times. And the more sure you are about the utopia, the more almost certain it is that you get it wrong. But, okay, I was born in 1960, that is the year that the contraceptive pill was deployed. And that has overturned, arguably, a 40,000-year order. It hasn't liberated women, but it has given them much more power over their own reproductive system. Okay? Now, if the outcome of that is what? A different understanding of gender relationships. You've also had, in my lifetime, being gay has gone from being illegal to being, very, very legal and allowed in Western societies. If you live through a transformation like that, which has never happened before, there have been periods when there has been relative freedom for women. Yes, there have even been periods when gay men had more rights than they did in the 1960s, but no, there has never been a period of liberation, human personal liberation like the one we've lived through. Why should we live through that and see it happen and then not be able to imagine overturning a 200-year-old social system and transforming it into something better? That's my argument. Overthrowing the system is not what I write about. Understanding its contradictions and the transformation that's already underway and the challenges it poses is the agenda I would like to set. And therefore, I think one of the reasons people aren't interested in overthrowing capitalism is because the way it was attempted to be overthrown in the 20th century didn't work. It didn't work because it was attempted in a brutal way on the basis of scarcity. My proposal is to move beyond capitalism on the basis of abundance, and only in those areas where there is abundance should we attempt to move beyond what we have now, which is the market and the state. I see a long transition involving the state, the market, and a non-market sector, which is some people call the commons or peer production. I like the idea of simply the non-market, collaborative, horizontal production of free stuff. I just think this is coming. And if you ask yourself, look, if we could draw a mental picture of capitalism in our mind, we'd see a lot of firms, and a lot of employees, and a lot of shops, and a lot of websites, okay? But one business they all transact with is Wikipedia. We could trace the IP addresses that transact with Wikipedia. It would involve every firm in the world. At some point, generates a request to Wikipedia, except in China where it's not going to happen, a request to Wikipedia for information. That's free. It's been produced free. But how does economics account for it? We don't. And therefore my challenge is to economics to start accounting for the free stuff, for the free software, for the free tools. You see, we're now in a situation where a 19th century engineer comes into the factory, he's got standards, which are a ruler with a meter and some millimeters on it. He's got a tool that he owns, and he's got his skills. Our tools and our standards and our skills are all digital. So You know, in other words, if I want to transform a piece of video to look different, 10 years ago I had to use skills to do that, to physically tweak it digitally. No, I don't. Just drag a widget onto it and it looks like sepia, or it looks like jerky. It's been filmed in a riot. I can just do that with a tool. It's not a skill anymore. So the move from skill to tool to standard is very rapid in the digital space, and it just transforms our human capacity. Two buzzwords in the modern space. One is automation, and the other is the sharing economy. Now, I think the sharing economy is a good word, but I don't think some of the companies that have populated it really are about sharing. What they're about is rent seeking. So you create a platform through which people can share, whether it's taxi rides or it's unused bedroom space or whatever, and then you extract an economic rent from it. That is, by making yourself the only place people can do that business. I think these will be easily challenged when true competition takes place in those spaces. I also don't think they represent the third industrial revolution, because the algorithms, the actual code, is not defensible in the sense that it's not unique. It's easily copyable. Whereas what does represent a real technological advance is Google. I mean, Google's based on an algorithm that was written by the two guys who founded it, and it is a piece of innovation. So is DNA sequencing. So I just think the sharing economy has been kind of wrongly sort of populated by companies that aren't going to be around for a long space of time. Doesn't mean that those are bad companies per se, although making your own rules and seizing kind of legal space can get you into trouble, as it's done with Uber, whose offices have been twice raided by the Amsterdam police. But good luck to them. The problem is it's not sharing. Sharing is collaborative, horizontal, non-managed production for free use. That's what sharing is. Now, what about AI? I think we do stand on the edge of a potentially rapid automation of production, consumption, services, including the professions, but we fear it, so we don't do it. In my project, I want to do it. I want us to rapidly automate the world, because I want to rapidly reduce the amount of work needed to reproduce humanity on a decent scale, and to reduce the amount of energy we're using. So reducing the amount of work would be good, reducing the amount of energy would be good. That means AI, machine learning, robots are good. But we have to then de-link work from wages, because if you don't de-link work from wages, lots of people are going to starve, and there's going to be an unseemly scramble for the jobs that are left. If you think about in the modern economy, say Britain, a lot of graduates or well-educated people, high school educated people from East Europe are doing very, very menial jobs, because there's not enough high skill jobs to go around in Britain. Now, that's going to look much worse. What will happen, I think, as employment becomes scarce, you're going to get a gender war over who's allowed to work. That'll come back, and you'll have a war between the classes and often between ethnicities about who is going to have this work. So we have to societally address the problem of sharing the work out, and for me, that's what gives the universal basic income proposal its attractiveness.
Yes, I agree.
Resonate for a bit, because it was such a shock when it came out to the right in Britain that they couldn't get past the first chapter. They were shocked even to see Soviet economists quoted. Now, I'm a big critic of the Soviet Union and of the Soviet mainstream economics. I do think we could learn things about Soviet economics, however, that are interesting about our own future. But it was too much for people to see Yevgeny Preobrazhensky, the executed anti-Stalinist economist, even quoted in a book. So let's let it resonate. So let's let the whole thing resonate for a bit, and people respond to it. It is being responded to. The word post-capitalism has become a kind of meme. I'd like to see what people make of it. And for me, I'm very keen to get on with my main job, which is documenting the world and its troubles, which is what I've done. I think coming from outside the mainstream of economics and being able to just challenge people in a creative way is what this book has tried to do. But then it's for people who agree with it to turn it into boring old econometrics and case studies and and challengeable kind of research. I'll be glad if some of that does arise.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good.
Thank you.